Yes, Ajahn.
Good evening.
Good evening. I tried to type the question, but I couldn't send it, so I thought I would just raise my hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious to know when there's a space, when the breathing like has a long space in between and the mind becomes silent at that point. Is that just the knowing or awareness? And is that unconditioned?
You mean when you say there's a space, you mean you can no longer sense the breath, or you're just talking about the gap between each breath?
The gap between each breath.
Well, you'll notice if you're becoming more peaceful, your breathing tends to become a little bit softer, more refined. Sometimes it becomes slower than normal as well. And you'll notice as you breathe in, there's a gap before you breathe out. It's quite possible you breathe in and you're aware of the breath in, but then when there's the pause, already your mind wanders away. Or if you breathe out, there's a pause before you breathe in, already your mind might wander away and think of other things. So your first task is simply to be fully aware of the in-breath all the way in. Stay with it as you pause, fully aware of the breath out, and then fully aware as your breath pauses, your mind stays with it before you breathe in. That's your first task. To know whether the breath is going in, breath is going out, whether it's long, short, coarse, refined. And as you meditate more, you'll find that if you stay with the breath, then you'll find that your mental energy gathers in one place. So maybe at the tip of your nostrils or the chest. Your mind is not so scattered, you're not thinking so much. And this is a very good thing, because your mental energy gathers together, you feel brighter, more calm, more stable, more steady. This is what we call the knowing. One-pointedness is the knowing, or the one who knows. So you want to develop that as much as possible, that continuity of mindfulness. And when you're really calm, then you can maybe turn to contemplate the body or contemplate feelings. And you won't be distracted as you contemplate, because your mindfulness, this quality of knowing, is strong. But if the quality of knowing is not very strong, not very continuous, well, of course, as soon as you start contemplating, your mind might get distracted again and just go back to ordinary thinking, wandering around. So you want to practice and make your mindfulness as strong as possible. Regular practice, and if it's going well, try and keep meditating a bit longer than usual. Maybe if your meditation is going well, your mind is settling down, don't stop, keep going. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? We're not very good with the technology here. We're struggling a bit. You got the text box there in case there's a text question. We on the website and email. If your microphone is on and you're not speaking, please mute it. But if you want to speak, you can put your hand up No one's got their hand up. Nobody has a question? Does that mean you're all peaceful? Your meditation is going really well? Ah, somebody. Nilmani, can you speak? Can you unmute?
Yes, Ajahn. Just wanted to find out, with the meditation, can you change from one meditation to another as you go along, or is it better to stick to one and develop on that particular meditation? For an example, if you are doing the death meditation and I'm also doing the Buddhanustati meditation, so whether to keep changing, or I'm not sort of developing any further, to get some advice on that, please.
As I mentioned in the talk, Luang Por Man talked about meditation objects as ubaya, which means like skillful means. So skillful means something that helps your mind to calm down and become concentrated. So generally you will find a meditation object that suits you, that maybe you've already experienced some peace, some confidence from that object. You develop it regularly, but then occasionally you might find your mind just won't settle down, and maybe there's a particular problem, because our life goes on, different things come up. So you may sometimes have to try a different approach. So say, for example, you regularly use anapanasati, breathe in, breathe out, but then one day you're really upset about something, maybe you're angry, and you just can't settle down on the breath, your mind is too agitated. Or maybe that day you might need to concentrate your mind on the thought of metta, goodwill, or karuna, compassion, for example, until you settle down. Or maybe another day you're just very agitated, worried about something in the future coming up. Again, you can't stay with the breath. So maybe on that day you contemplate death as a way just to cut through all the worrying. So, we can only give you general instruction here. You have to see how your meditation unfolds every day. But generally, you want to be developing one main meditation object and really get skilled with that and get good at that. But from time to time, you may need to also have one or two other objects that you bring in. But you also have to be careful not to just jump around. So you try a bit of breath meditation, say, oh, this is not working, I'll try metta or recollection of Buddha or body contemplation. If you jump around, just try this, try that, then you won't probably find that you get very far with your meditation. You want to stick with your main objects, but then also have some other objects which from time to time, when there's a specific need, you might use them or develop them until your mind calms down. Then you go back to your main object.
Thank you very much.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Certainly does. Okay, thank you.
And one more, someone else. Chang, is it? Chang.
Yeah. Good evening, Ajahn.
Good evening.
I want to ask you this question. We talk about reciting Bhutto during meditation. I have two questions. Do we recite Bhutto as in when we breathe in, Bu, and then breathe out, Do, or how do we really do this reciting? And then the other one is, while we recite, do we still watch on the breath, or we just focusing on reciting itself? Thank you, Ajahn.
This is something you have to experiment with to find out for yourself what works best for you. And Luang Por Man would often teach just to recite Buddho, 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 Buddho. So just the mental recitation of the word, not with the breath. And keep that going whether you're standing, walking, sitting, lying down. Even when you're doing different tasks, you can recite Buddho if you don't need to talk to anyone or think about anything in particular. You can recite Buddho. But then Luang Por Chah also suggested trying to use Buddho with the breath. So breathe in, maybe Bud, breathe out, To, or breathe in Buddho, breathe out Buddho. The rhythm and the speed of it, you have to experiment with to see what works for you. Because different people find different things work for them. Some people recite Buddho very fast. Buddho, 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 and they don't want to let a thought come into their mind. Some people refine their breath and they're reciting Buddho, but in a very refined, slow way. So Bud, To, Bud, To. You have to see what works for you. Some people just watch the breath alone. They don't recite Buddho at all. They just use the breath. So see what works for you. What you find is if you become very peaceful and one-pointed, then you'll drop Buddho. It's too much work for the mind, and you just focus the mind on the knowing, either with the breath or just with the knowing itself. But that's more further down the line once you've established strong mindfulness and a state of calm. But experiment whether you do Buddho together with the breath or just Buddho on its own. See what works for you.
Thank you, Ajahn. This is helpful.
Good.
Another question.
There's one more question. I can't read the name.
Me again.
Yeah.
I just have some doubt about the practice at the moment. If I've never met like an enlightened person, if I haven't learned from like a teacher, if I don't have a teacher, is it still like possible to live the holy life?
Possible, of course, but a teacher is so much better if you have one or find one. So maybe invest some effort into finding a teacher, because there are still good teachers around these days. Of course, you don't have to live with a teacher. You can have a teacher that you refer to from time to time when you have a question or need some clarification. Then you can do it online even, or visit that teacher, spend time asking questions, getting the understanding you need, and then you go back to wherever you live and practice. So you don't always have to live with your teacher. But sometimes it's good to live with a teacher because they are a Kalyano Mitta, and you get a lot of, unconscious teachings or very subtle teachings, as well as, just verbal answering questions, giving instruction. There's also things you see, you experience on many levels when you're living with a teacher. People find that when you live with a teacher, you often have a heightened sense of conscience. You're more aware of your thoughts and whether they're wholesome or not, negative or positive, useful or not useful. You tend to be a little bit more aware when you're living with someone you consider a teacher, because you have that quality of respect. You're looking up to a teacher if you have one, and that often will make you more aware of your own mind. There's a certain reflection back onto your own mind. Maybe you see the teacher, maybe they haven't said a word yet, but already you become a little bit more mindful in that situation. So most people who practice the Buddhist path, at least for a period of time, they might live with the teacher, but not all the time. They spend some time apart from the teacher, learn to be more self-reliant, and then go back to the teacher for further instruction.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
Any more? We're not getting any of the text questions.
No, it doesn't seem like that.
Oh. If you've written a text question, unfortunately, we aren't able to read them tonight. I don't know why.
Oh, one more from Jaga.
Yeah.
Hi,
Jagath?
Ajahn. Hi, Ajahn. When you do sitting meditation, you feel your body like your body like touch cushion, and you feel like the warm or cold like with your body. So can you do like body contemplation with like earth, fire with that experience, Ajahn?
Of course, yeah. You may begin, just like you say, just being aware of external sensations of touch, what we call bodhapa. It's like the touch between your skin and the air, or the skin and your clothes, or the skin and the ground, pressure, heat, cold. But then as you bring your attention inwards, you may be more aware of the body on the inside, and then you maybe just focus on temperature on the inside. So you send your awareness around your body, you'll notice some part of your body is warmer than others, maybe. You know, like maybe your stomach is warmer. Often people find their stomach gets quite warm because that's where you digest food. But then the extremities of your body tend to cool down quicker. Your toes might feel cold and your stomach feels warm. Sometimes in the same moment, you send your attention around your body and you're noticing different temperature changes. Maybe you notice as your mindfulness improves, your samadhi improves, the temperature in your body changes. And some people heat up, some people cool down. You get an automatic kind of leveling or change balance of the elements in your body, and the temperature element, the fire element may be reflected there. And then sometimes people, by focusing on the fire element, they just focus on one thing. So they may focus on heat or coolness. So monks, I know, have done this, and they become skilled in focusing on the fire element, and they can actually heat themselves up when they're in a cold place. So one monk I knew, he went to Norway as a delegate for the Thai Sangha of monks were invited to a conference, a UN conference in Norway. And as you know, Norway is a country with a lot of mountains and snow. It can be quite cold there. And after the conference was over, he was taken out into the mountains, and he sat down in the snow in his thin Thai robes like me, with his bare shoulder. And he sat down in the snow and meditated. And he sat there for a long time, an hour or two. And he went into a state of samadhi, and then came out. And then later he came back to Thailand, and we had a photo of him. So we asked him, "Oh, when you were sitting in the snow like that, weren't you cold?" He said, "Well, at first I was cold. Yeah, I became mindful of the cold. And then first thing I did, I remembered what it feels like to be warm." So he's focusing on the perception, the sanya of being warm. So you could say he's like just reminding himself what it feels like to be warm. And then he went into the fire element, and he really warmed his body up. So he said he could feel no cold. He just felt really warm as he focused on the fire element sitting in the snow. And I know there are other meditators who have done this. They've managed to warm themselves up when they're in the cold, or in a very hot situation, cool themselves down. Ajahn Chah used to get the monks to do one practice. around this time of year in Thailand in April, it's really hot, super hot sometimes up to 40 degrees, 45 degrees, super hot. And Ajahn Chah got the monks to go into the meditation hall after their meal of the day. So maybe at 11 a.m., 12 a.m., 12 p.m., 12 noon, when the sun is highest, the weather is hottest. Go into the meditation hall, shut all the doors and windows so there's no movement of air, no fans, nothing, and then have their robes on. And then this robe I'm wearing here on my shoulder is called a sangati. This is like a cloak. So unwrap this and put it around the shoulders like a cloak or blanket. So sitting there for an hour in the middle of the day in the heat, in a stuffy, hot, stuffy hall, contemplating what it feels like. So it's like going into a sauna. Outside is already hot enough, and then you go in and you're sitting there with all these robes on, like in a sauna. So you get really hot, sweaty, the sweat drips, but you can contemplate the heat element in your body, maybe the water element, the sweat as well. The idea is to maintain mindfulness and not go into mental proliferation, not give into any anger or desire to move, go out, not to complain, not to worry about it. And just keep your mind focused on the body with mindfulness and just experiencing the different changes of temperature in the body. One of the advantages of that is when you finish that practice and you go out of the hall, you take your robes off, you're back into the fresh air outside. Even though outside is still hot, it's not as hot as in the hall. So suddenly you feel very cool outside. Whereas before you had gone into the hall, you felt very hot outside and everyone's going, oh, it's so hot, sweaty. But after you've been in the hall, which is super sweaty, super hot, then you go outside, you feel very comfortable. So when you become mindful of the elements like that, sometimes it gives you a certain advantage and you can cope with different weather conditions better. And you're more mindful rather than getting caught up into all your reactions, what you think about things. You're just knowing the feeling, you're mindful of it.
Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you so much.
Any more? All gone quiet? Or maybe that's enough Q&A for today. Can always save your question. If you've written one down, unfortunately we couldn't read them tonight. You can always ask it again next week. But maybe we'll end the session there. So we'll just pay respects to the Triple Gem.